Why should Christians care about or respond to anti-Semitism? And first of all, we have no Bible without the Jewish people. And it's their Bible first. 2/3 of our Bible is their Bible first, and becomes the foundation for the books of the New Testament. When you study what Jesus said, he refers all the time to the Old Testament, the Hebrew Bible. He celebrated the feasts. He lived Jewishly. It was clear what his life was about, in addition, of course, to being the Messiah, being the Son of God. And but then after the church began to deviate, even by the end of the first century of the church, of the Christian era, you see that anti-Semitism began to grow in a very real way in the church. And when I was teaching at Hebrew Union College, I remember my students quoting from church fathers. And they would quote from Chrysostom and quote from Origen and quote from Irenaeus, and I had never heard that in the church. I'd never heard that taught in the church. So it helped me understand why the Jewish people have such a hard time with Christians, because how can we hold this tradition? It's difficult to trust the people who have hurt you for so long, have rejected you, have insulted you. Because some of the things that the church fathers wrote about, circumcision is a mark, to show that you have been disobedient. Or one of the church fathers writes that God divorced Israel and replaced it with the church. And so this, for century after century, by Irenaeus, the end of the first century, until, of course, the reformers, we have Luther also, who goes into his discourses against the Jews, and all that has taken place and how the Jews have been treated in church history by the church, by Christians, has been very difficult. And most of the church doesn't know how anti-Semitic the church has been. So I think it's very important for us to teach Christians why there's such suspicion of who we are, and why there is a hurt, a foundation that is very hurt in Jewish people in the way that it's difficult for them to trust because of what they know. And my rabbinic students knew church history more than any Christian in the church I was attending. So it launched me into doing research and writing and publishing in the area of supersessionism and church fathers and this type of thing. It helped me a lot to understand why people were reacting. The Jewish community was reacting in such a suspicious way towards the Christian community. I don't blame them with what's been written. So, of course, we have Luther, who did a lot of damage also. And then in more modern history, you look at how Hitler identified himself as a Christian. And he respected Luther, said great things about church fathers, about Luther, and about others in Christian history who were anti-Semites, and very, very painful. So I think that this needs to be taught to Christians who are ignorant of their legacy, who are ignorant of what is in their history, even though they may not be personally responsible for some of these words and some of these things that have happened. They have done a lot of deep damage in the relationship between the Jewish and the Christian community.